Hello everyone, my name is Nolwazi and I'm going to be your lecturer for this exciting course being offered by Vispa University. The course is titled Contemporary African Studies. With me, Mhodi Nolwazi. My name is Nolwazi. This is my surname. Where I come from, as a Ndebele woman, my surname is the most important element, so I put it first before everything else. But my name is Nolwazi. But some people call me Zina, and this is my artistic name. I'm a singer, musician, poet, and dancer. I love arts because arts are a great way to express ourselves, and they're not only entertaining, but they're very educational. So Vispa has this exciting course for you, and I'm going to be taking you through different aspects about Africa, African politics. Yes, this is about African politics. African politics because it's under international relations. This will help you understand Africa better. Africa is a diverse subject. We will not exhaust everything in this course. What we'll do is touch base on the most important and fundamental issues that you need to learn as a student, that you need to be aware of, so that you're able to do everything well. I am so happy that you signed up, and I'm available on email on mhodinolwazi@gmail.com or nolwazi@africanfoodrevolution.org. You can send me emails and questions. You can also find me on social media. I'm there on LinkedIn, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Twitter, so you can find me on any social platform and we can exchange, we can conversate. This is where my consultative services will most likely depend on, since we cannot see each other due to the corona pandemic. It's a very sad thing that today in the world we have something like this, that this pandemic might destroy the world as we know it. And Africa is projected to be the worst hard hit. And why? Because Africa has already a lot of underlying problems, a lot of challenges. So when something like this comes, it's a threat. It's like a fire. It can simply just multiply, because there are already issues such as poverty, such as lack of hospitals, such as poor health. HIV cases are very high, Ebola in some parts of Africa. So we already see that there are some problems which make it even harder for Africa to fight back with the corona. However, I think a lot of Africans would agree with me that one of the things which has kept Africa going in the years throughout is the spirit of Ubuntu, the spirit of fighting back, of standing up, so we're strong, we're going to make it, and everything else. So I hope you're going to enjoy this course. This is an introductory lecture, so I'm just giving you the basics of what we're going to do, and also just giving you a bit of information that you need to understand before we venture in this course about Africa. And then, of course, I'm going to give you assignments. I'm going to give you homeworks so that you can come back when we have our live chat and you can respond to that. So I'm just going to explain briefly what we're going to do, what this course is about, what I expect from you, and things like that. If you have any comments or something like that, please write to me. As I said, my email is mhodinolwazi@gmail.com, which is mhodinolwazi, which is basically like this in small letters, and all you do is @gmail.com. That's all. Easy, isn't it? Okay, and to find me on all social media platforms, you use these particular names. Nolwazi Zina Mhodi, right? So you'll be able to find me. Google me, you will find me. Okay, so the course was initially designed for direct teaching, live teaching, this contemporary African studies. But the course itself is just there right now to offer you an introduction to contemporary African politics. Well, the main goal of this course is to introduce and to familiarize you with the most pressing problems that we see in Africa. And the course is designed to provide an introduction to not only the politics, but the governance, the historical developments, the processes and institutions that we find in Africa, as well as maybe the trends and the patterns. So one of your research assignments as students is to predict trends and patterns that will happen, especially post-corona. This is going to be really exciting in the sense that it's going to be dynamic. So this is going to be part of your project as well. So this course itself is driven by a few questions. You know, I have 3 main questions, and these are the questions that I constantly answer as I deliver knowledge and information to you. The first important question is, to what extent are political outcomes in contemporary Africa influenced by its history? Oh, Africa's history is long and vast, you know. We need to consult the historians as well when we talk about this. This is what makes this course a studies, because we'll not just look at politics and political theories in isolation. We're going to look at the interdisciplinary nature of politics. We're going to look at the interdisciplinary and interconnectivity of issues that we find in modern Africa. And of course, one of the most important things for us to understand is what happened in the past. We go back to the history. Then we'll look at pre-colonial times, colonial times, and post-colonial times. And then we sort of like draw a picture of how Africa looked before, now, after, and possibly in the future. So we're going to be trying to answer this question. And then once you get a gist of the history, I'm sure you'll be able to understand that African politics is very much influenced by colonial period. I think the colonial period was the most influential, and I'm going to explain why as we go on, and I'm going to invite guests as well to join us live. We have a decoloniality researcher, Sletemba Kuta, who's a UMCS PhD candidate. She's going to join us in our class as we talk about colonialization, post-colonialization, and decolonialization, and then we move forward. Then the second question, which drives the whole study, the study that you and I were going to be doing, is why are the state structures and institutions relatively weaker in Africa than in most other regions or in most other parts of the world? Why are the institutions the way they are? So once you understand the history, it will tell you why the governance and the institutions that drive this governance are acting or behaving or implementing things the way they do. And also this will show you why certain problems in Africa are, will be, might have been, could have not been, if these institutions were acting or exercising their authority in particular ways. So we're going to look at institutions. That means African Union, we're going to go through it. We're going to go through SADC, we're going to go through COMESA. There's so many. And as a student, you pick your institution. You can evaluate that in part of your project. I'm going to give you the whole project details, but right now I'm just giving you snippets as we go along. And you're going to analyze your institution and try to assess what it needs. When you're trying to assess what it needs, you look at, first of all, what is its goal? How does it work with its goal? How can it be improved? What are the challenges and what are the solutions? And then you offer your recommendations. You become an expert at with that institution. So I'm so excited to see experts coming up from Vispa University. Okay, so the third question that we also answering or pursuing in this study is what accounts for Africa's relatively slow economic growth. Oh my God, we always talk about how Africa is in the third world, poverty, Africa suffering, Africa low GDP, Africa. Why is Africa having such troubles with this economy? Is it because we're using a system that we don't understand? Is it because we are just being cheated? Is it because we're not managing ourselves well? Going back to the history and institutions, right? And then we look at the economy. What are the needs of the people? What drives the economy? Corruption. Corruption is going to be one of those key features, you know. I always say that corruption is the hardest to get rid of because it's hard to get uncorrupt. It's easy to get corrupt, but it's hard to get uncorrupt, and we can't go back from that. So what makes the economies fail? And I come from an extremely exciting case study, which is Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe has seen a lot of economic adventures. I call them adventures. They're very terrible situations because I am a Zimbabwean. I lived under such situations, and I still do. My family, my friends, my relatives still do that. And you find that the economy really changes the society, the morale in the community, the crime levels. Zimbabwe is so peaceful. I used to eat lollies and run in the streets, but right now it's not safe. Why? Because the economy is bad. People have no jobs. They resort to sometimes crime and violence, and then now instability in the economy. The culture changes. People become fearful. So you see how all this is like interconnected, domino effect. We have to solve the problems at the roots. The things that we're seeing mostly in Africa are the effects, but what are the root causes? History, institutions here not omitting leaders. And I'm going to use a leadership characterization which was done by Dr. Mhlanga. He was a guest in my seminar, African Transitions. He profiled African leaders and how they behave. I think this is going to be awesome. So I'm going to get in touch with him. Maybe he might join us for this class online. And you can hear from him how he characterizes them, the leaders, you know, the Pan-African leaders and all those kind of things. Really exciting. The popularism that is rising. You can see with Julius Malema and all that. So we're going to also look at leaders as we talk about institutions. Because institutions are, after all, the actions of the institutions are determined by the leadership that we have in that. So the course itself is divided into 3 parts. So in the first part, we will analyze pre-colonial Africa, that is the culture, society before colonization, economy, policies and institutions and empires like the Zulu kingdom. You know, the Ndebeles come from the Zulus in South Africa, massive booming empire. What happened to it? So these are the stuff that we're going to answer. You're going to learn about empires you never heard of, like Muruntaba Empire in Zimbabwe, which built the great Zimbabwe. Lots of things. They were empires before colonization. Empires suggest, or by having an empire, we already assume there was leadership, there was governance, there was institutions, there was protocols, there was rule, there was economy. So Africa had systems, pre-colonial systems, and colonial and post-colonial. So we're going to go through that. So we're going to look at that in the first part of the course. And then in the second part, we will examine the socio-cultural and, of course, the economic environment that characterize the political life of today, contemporary Africa. Okay, so what are the cultural, the social? So we're going to look at the development levels. We're going to look at also as well food security in this. We're going to look at sustainable development. We're going to look at climate change, you know, contemporary, current things that are happening in Africa today. And then, of course, we're going to cover issues of migration. I'm in Poland, which means I'm a migrant in Poland. I'm part of the people that you count in brain drain. I'm now lecturing for Wisła University in Poland when I could be doing this for National University of Science and Technology in Zimbabwe where I studied. But there's a brain drain, there's migration, almost about 5 people leave Zimbabwe every day. So I'm going to ask you to find these statistics and tell us why are people leaving. How can we make them stay in the countries? What should be done? Or is it good? Is mobility really good considering Corona? Is mobility good? Tell me, is mobility good for Africa? Is it good for Africa in general? I don't know. You tell me. When we sign up and we join in, I hope someone has an answer for this. Of course, we're also going to look at foreign policies, foreign aid. My God, one of the recommended books is Dead Aid by Dambisa Moyo. I would like you to read this book. Really, I know students sometimes don't particularly like reading a yarosumyem, meaning I understand. But I would like you to get a copy of this book. I'll send you a PDF version as well. I'm going to send you also a PDF version of the core book that we're going to be using. I'm going to give you this information. But you can always Google it. But I'm going to send you. And if you want, you can always request. So this is like open. We have a relationship, dialogue. Talk to me as your teacher and I'll talk back. As I was saying, we're going to look at foreign aid. Foreign aid, you know, NGO role in this aid. Really, is aid good for Africa? She tries to answer this question in her book. Did she successfully answer it? I think yes. From where she was coming from, yes. But however, we can never totally answer this question, as I said. Interconnectivity, interdisciplinary nature of these issues means that we still need to approach this thing from another angle, and you might also come up with another approach to this. But is aid really good? Debt that we see in Africa, we owe so much. Is it also because of that? And then, of course, we're going to look at ethnicity and conflict. We cannot escape this. One of the reasons why Africa is struggling is we're so diverse. There's so many ethnic groups, and I'm going to give you numbers on the numbers of ethnic groups, numbers of languages and stuff, and then you get a really clear picture. In one country, you can find over 16, over 11 languages. Like, how do you get along? And you find that sometimes people get along well, but is multilingualism really good for Africa? I wrote a paper on this I will share with you. I think not. I think if we just speak one language, sometimes it might be better because language, you know, shows identity, and identity is linked with ethnicity, and there's a lot of ethnic conflict. You know, in Zimbabwe, in my country, there was a genocide against my people, the Ndebele, by the Shona people in that same country. And we lived together, right? Peacefulish, but people died, my relatives. So this is not like a hearsay. One of the things about learning this course with someone like me, which Wisła succeeded in doing, is that I'm going to be giving you not only knowledge that I've read, and researched, but also experienced. So this is also going to be based on experience. And we have the famous Rwandan case when we talk about that, but there are also a lot of ethnical issues that are there in many parts of Africa, especially in Nigeria. There's a lot of conflict, a lot of, issues. That also means religion also will be brought in. We see the Muslim-Christian clashes in Nigeria so often. So we are going to look at some of those aspects in detail and stuff like that. So of course, we're going to look at the recent initiatives and reforms that have been introduced. And then of course, I would like you to come up with solutions. So this is where sustainable development comes in. And I'm a sustainable development enthusiast, researcher, specialist. I absolutely love development. I like people to progress because development is broad. Development just not only means having, but it also means you as a person, are free to express yourself, free to live, free to be happy. We're going to go through this. When we talk about sustainable development, it's going to be happening in the later weeks. You are absolutely going to love this. I'm so happy. Okay, so we're going to look at food security because this is also my key research area. I'm researching on food systems in Southern Africa, so I'm going to be looking at the SADC region, and I'm using Southern Africa as my tag because I'm also going to look at the cultural influence of food and how food, is so nice and how we can help. And there's African Food Revolution, which is an NGO which me and some of my friends are part of, and we are trying to help Africa understand its food systems, help Africans grow food better because, one of the main problems in Africa is hunger. If you're hungry, you can't really do much. You can't think, you can't live, you can't be healthy, you cannot do anything. So we're starting from the basic, which is like, okay, let us give people food. And once people have food, and then we will see how things will move on from there. Okay, so this is just like a brief summary, an overview of what we're going to be covering, right? And I'm going to give you now just like prerequisites, the things that I want you to remember the most and stuff. I expect you to read all the materials and assignments before you log on for class so that we don't have to do it online. Online, we come in, we start discussing, we start talking and things like that. So read it. I will send it before class. Read it. I'll send information which is not too broad, but enough, that you can actually take an hour, 2 hours and just read it, write a few notes. And when we log in and meet each other, we will discuss this. During login processes, right, there's a platform that is being offered by the university. I'm going to send you an email with that. And then you can find me there. Alternative is Skype. We can do a Skype group and we can meet there. We can also do a messenger group where we can do live and direct chatting and interchange of information. We can use Messenger for that because you can find me on Facebook. So someone can do a Facebook page or I can do it. So I would choose a picture. We can do all that. I will send you an email and then I would like to find out how many people are able to join which platform. Also, what we're going to be using is Google Doc. I'm going to send you a Google Doc link where we're going to be writing our input. I'm really happy that you're going to say things, but I want you to write things down. So at the end of this course, we're going to produce our own little summary. So each person is going to be given a section where they're going to be writing information based on the topic that we would have covered. Of course, fine, if we were having a live lecture, this is what I would want you to do. Of course, to attend class. This counts for 50% of your grade. You have to log on. You have to be there. If everything goes well before our course is finished and we have to meet live, you have to come for class. So you have to attend. Attending means you log in. I see you. No black screen. I repeat, no black screen. I'm going to be taking face register. I'm going to need to see you because somebody, can log in with a black screen and go away. I'm not going to have that. No, I need to see you. I couldn't meet you. At least I could see you. At least I can get to do that. If you switch on your camera, if your camera is off, I will disconnect you from the lecture. It means you're not there because not everybody else can show up. And you hide. So clean your room, get yourself nice and clean, just make sure you're properly dressed in case something happens. Follow the online protocols, you will be fine. And I look forward to seeing you. I would like to see your smiles. I would like to see the face behind the intelligence. So please, cameras always on. I will write it as well. Okay, so of course, unless if there's some emergency or something like that, you can excuse yourself from class, but I expect to have your class. And now I have proof, digital proof that you attended class or not. So you're going to be based. And then your project is the 50% also that counts for your grade. 50% is participation and 50% is the project. So you have to think about it more clearly, what you're going to do. I allow videos, documentaries, books, whatever you want to produce. But I expect certain information to be there. How you express it, this is the cool part. We live in a technological era. You can do an animated video. You can do, I don't know, a poster. But detailed, you would have to do a summary so I can see that you actually learned something. You know, we can discuss and I can guide you through, because I not only work as a lecturer, but I'm also a business consultant. I consult for communication issues, strategy development issues, so I can help you. The thing is, I will show you how you can do it so you don't need to freak out or be scared. Proszę, it's gonna be okay. All right, so class. During this class, if it's online, please make sure you don't have any sound, you know, that would disturb us. If we're in class, physical class, I wouldn't want you to have your phones, because that would be very distracting and all that. So you are supposed to do that. I'm going to send you a list in the second week of topics to choose. Next week, I'm going to give you like a lecture so that at least you get a hang of what's going on, and then you can then zoom in on that key issue that you feel we can do. Today, I'm just going to give you a brief introductory overview. I don't want to overwhelm you with this video, but I'm going to just like touch base and go, and primarily focus on our course. So, of course, introduction and overview, which is this class, we've already done for this class because we have 20 hours. So this is the first part of the 2 hours that we're doing. You're getting the introduction, and also after that, you're going to get some material to prepare you for the first class. The first class is going to be held online at the platform that is going to be advised, pre-class. And then, of course, we're going to go through everything step by step. I expect you to log in and understand. So we're going to start with Africa before colonization and understanding the history and the past. And then we're going to go to colonial legacies, post-coloniality to decoloniality. Then we're going to have a guest. And then we're going to look at ethnicity and conflict. And we're going to look at the cases of Rwanda and Zimbabwe. And then we're going to go to the socio-cultural landscape, making sense of society and people. How can we make sense of society and people? You know, during Corona in South Africa, people were dancing. That's a different cultural approach. Corona is coming, they know, but they're not going to stay at home just. They're going to dance their way as they go home stubbornly. So why is the culture like that? Maybe we can understand. We can go through it together. Economics of Africa, you know, what are the challenges, what are the threats? So this is the other course. Then we're going to have international cooperation and institutions, and then we're going to look at foreign aid and migration as well. So this is going to be like loaded class, because all these 4 components, foreign aid, migration, and institutions, are just awesome on their own. They just need a whole course. But we're just going to like try and squeeze out all the main elements. And for this, I'm going to have Dr. Michael Konye from Catholic University of Lublin. He's also from Nigeria, so he's going to be joining us. So he's going to give you more information on that. And then we're going to have sustainable development in Africa, where I'm going to be super excited, because this is my baby, this is my thing. So we're going to look at sustainable development in Africa, and I'm going to share with you my experience in working some of the programs. I work with the United Nations briefly and stuff like that. So I know when we talk about development, you know what we're talking about. I was with the UNDP, United Nations Development Program, in case you didn't know. And then, of course, we're going to look at food security and climate change. Food security and food systems, why? This is my key research area. And I'm going to show you how we can at least answer goal 2. You know, we can get there. We can get there. I think we can make it. And then, of course, we're going to touch on technology and its threats. You know, Africa, you know, technology, social media is like everywhere. And how is technology playing in Africa? How is it influencing African politics? Are people more expressive? Are they really expressing what they feel? So we're going to go through all of that, and we're going to see how things turn out. I'm going to erase my name and remind you of what you have to do. 1, email. We need to correspond on email. And we're going to also meet on social media, right? So here, Facebook, Twitter, I told you can find me. I'm Googleable. All right? And then, of course, most important, no black screen. Turn on your camera. Turn on your camera. I need to see you. We need to connect. Everybody else needs to see who's there in class. So please switch on your camera, turn it on, whatever term you choose to use. Please just do that. It's very important. Of course, so we have, of course, our core book is going to be An Introduction to African Politics by Alex Thompson, the 3rd edition by 2010. Why did I choose this book? This book is really like well summarized for you. And we're summarizing African politics. We're not answering everything. So it's perfect if you're looking at summarizing things and stuff like that. So we're going to do that. So the alternative book is African Political System by Evans Pritchard. I'm also sending you this stuff. And of course, recommended by Dambisa Moyo in 2009, Dead Aid. Why aid is not working and how there is a better way for Africa. You know, she is an incredible woman. So I want you to go through that. So today we're doing the introduction and overview. I'm just going to take an additional 10 more minutes just to give you a brief introduction to Africa and African politics. And I hope you're going to enjoy this and stuff like that. So first of all, the aim of the introduction, the learning objective for this particular class today is, when we talk about Africa, what do we mean? And how do we imagine Africa, and where do our ideas of Africa really come from? So I would like you to watch a video by Ngozi Adichie, The Danger of a Single Story, on TED Talks. I'll send you a link and you watch it and you just get a brief view. And then for also Africa, a Geographic Preface by Neff Jeffrey and Chazan Naomi, The Diversity of African Politics, Trends and Approaches. So this will just give you like an idea of what's happening. So today I'm just going to touch base on a few things, and then I'm going to give you numbers in our next class as we begin Africa before colonization, as we go to the past. So Africa, beautiful continent with beautiful people, and I think all of us know Africa. But when we say Africa, what really pops into your mind? Most of the time it's poverty, sadness, diamonds, gold, music, food. A lot of things pop up when we talk about Africa. And Africa is a wonderful continent, located right in the perfect spot of the globe and stuff like that. So I would like you to give me statistics on Africa. How many African states are there? What is the population of Africa? Which regions have the highest population? What are the general climatology of Africa? Summarize that and bring it in class. And I'm going to be asking people randomly for this. So I want you to give me this info back. You can Google this. You can find this information. But I need you to look for it. That way you can remember. So when we talk about Africa, there are lots of issues, a lot of topical issues that we need to consider. We have to look at elections. How do leaders come in and get out? Bureaucracy. We have to look at military rule, you know. Are one-party states a good idea for Africa? Are civil societies performing well? Is there dictatorship? What did colonization really do to Africa? You know, what is the predatory rule that we can see in Africa? What is imperialism? You know, African imperialism, is it there or not? Is there personal rule and things like that? Capacity building. We're also going to look at a lot of things such as democracy, race issues, ethnicity, civil war, and apartheid in South Africa, socialism. Oh my God, a lot of things. Climate change and food security, of course. We're going to go through all of these things and you're going to enjoy this course, I'm sure. So think about it, Africa. You know, what's the thing that really pops into your mind when you hear this and stuff like that? So, of course, fine, when we talk about Africa, nationalism and populism, you know, the things that we cannot ignore, especially social class. You know, we have extremely rich people and extremely poor people. Also military invention, and we see this as a trend, as a pattern which is happening in Africa today. Zimbabwe unleashes military on the people when they go on demonstrations. South Africa unleashes military when you want to quarantine people during corona. So the military, how does it play a role? You know, democracy and legitimization and re-legitimization of African states. And we're going to look at Zimbabwe's fall from democratic grace, you know. It's a sad story because I lived under that regime. I talk a lot about Zimbabwe because Zimbabwe offers a case of a very beautiful country which went bad, something which a lot of African states should avoid. So, of course, what I want you to do is to have an understanding of the map of Africa, just for you to get to know a few things and stuff like that. 1 second. Okay, short break. Needed to drink some water. I'm at home, so I could run to the kitchen and get some water. So first of all, as I said, Africa is big. How many countries are in Africa? I'm going to try and see if I can name as many as I can. You know, we have Morocco in the upper parts of Africa, Tunisia, Algeria, Libya, Egypt, Mauritania, and some parts of Western Sahara, Cape Verde. And then we go down, we have Senegal, Gambia, Guinea-Bissau, Sierra Leone, Liberia, Cote d'Ivoire, Guinea, Burkina Faso, Mali, Mauritania, they're in the same region. Then we have Nigeria, Niger, Chad in the same region. Then we have Sudan, Eritrea, Ethiopia, Somalia, Djibouti going towards the Horn. And as we go down, we have Central African Republic, we have Gabon, we have Congo, we have Rwanda, and next to Rwanda we have Uganda, and then we have Kenya, and next to Kenya we have Tanzania, because they all speak Swahili, this is how I remember. And then of course, you know, we have Rwanda and Burundi in the same area. And then we go down, we have Zambia, we have Angola to the west of Africa, and beneath Angola we have Namibia to the west of Africa, and then moving inwards, just below Zambia we have Zimbabwe and Botswana, and then to the right of Zambia we have Malawi, Coronas, and of course these are Seychelles, Mauritius, and Madagascar. These are the islands on the far right. And then we have Mozambique, we have Swaziland, we have Lesotho, and of course to close up we have South Africa. I think I've mentioned everybody. If I forgot an African state, please check, but this is as best I could do. So the question is, why study African politics? Why? Think about it. Why? Well, yes, if somebody asks you, why do Westerners or internationals spend valuable time analyzing African politics? They should not concentrate on the countries, on the closer to home. Why are they bothering themselves, you know? Really, why are you studying Africa? What does Africa have to offer you? Well, apart from investigating Africa because of its fascinating political nuances, you know, the continent is also an invaluable study for comparative politics. You know, Africa gives us this other global or worldview, cultural view, full of different political ideas, policies, processes, institutions. You know, there's a lot of case studies that a student can investigate, you know, and you can learn a lot of things. And of course, studying political phenomena outside your familiar terrain, you know, can add value to you as well. It gives you a new dimension of understanding. I usually tell my Polish friends that, you know, they should appreciate the bus services when they complain. Oh, the bus is late, we don't like the buses. And I say, appreciate the bus services, because for someone like me who's coming from Zimbabwe, we no longer have public transport facilities, public transport like this. You know, whatever we have now is not working well as well. So appreciate, and because I have a different understanding to the need, you know, it's there, it's functional. But in some countries, it does not exist as well, you know. So it helps, you know, for you to balance your own personal view and stuff like that. And of course, one thing that we need to bear in mind is that there's a lot Africa has to offer. And scholars should not always focus on the problem Africa, challenged Africa, but there's also beautiful Africa. There's also empowered Africa. There's educated Africa. So the story has not been balanced in this course. These studies will try and balance all of that for you so that you are able to know more and figure out. The most common exposure that Westerners have is via broadcast journalism, you know. If you really rely on social media news, there's a lot of fake news. There's a lot of information which is not accurate, you know. So they just show you Africa is a continent of corruption, famines, disasters, and war. You know, all these factors, yes, they're there. There are realities. They're there on the continent, you know, from time to time. But we see that it's not the sum picture. It is not the total picture of Africa. It's like when you just focus on my eyes and my nose and you forget my mouth. That's not my whole face. That's not how I really see things, you know. There's a former correspondent of the BBC called George Alagia. I think the continent, the way that people do is not okay. It's bad press. He uses the word bad press, which is what I like. It's just bad press, and that bad press is not good, you know. The Western television pictures, you know, paint Africa as a faraway place where people go hungry, bad people run government, and chaos and anarchy are just the norm, you know. And that's not always the truth. So we have to see first if we can describe the real situation on the ground and make conscious effort to explain exactly what happened without just generalizing and just putting things into one bucket. You know, when they talk about Africans, they usually talk about Africans as being, you know, more violent, more corrupt, more greedy, more stupid than other human beings. And that's not true. You know, there are quite a lot of smart Africans. And Africans, you know, are quite clever. We've managed to live with our nature and environment for many years. This is why, you know, some of the recommendations which are being offered by different climate change researchers, you know, how to mitigate and adapt to these changes, you know, some of the practices we were doing as Africans, they seemed primitive, but they were in line with what nature wanted. They made us live in balance with nature, and this is predominantly the most important. So, which means I would like you, therefore, trying to find my cluster. So one of the most important things that you need to consider as you look at this, move away from, but consider also, is one, image of Africa. Is it the real image of Africa that we see? Is it really the image of Africa? Is it the real image of Africans that they tell us about? So we're going to try and answer these questions. And I think it's not entirely true. The picture has not been painted clear enough. Okay, so this is like, why would you study Africa, in my opinion, about how Africa actually looks like? Now the question is, what are the multiple political systems of Africa? As I said, different continents, this continent is divided into different regions. We have different political systems in different regions. East Africa, West Africa, Southern Africa, Central Africa, Northern Africa, it's not the same. So we have different political systems. Okay, so just a quick run through. A secondary preliminary piece of advice that I can give you is that Africa is not homogeneous. It has an excessive landmarks. It is home to different cultures and society. There is no one typical African polity. There's no one typical African way. I get surprised when people say, you're from Nigeria. No, I'm from Zimbabwe. There is no one particular identity for Africa. Africa is a conglomerate of diversity, right? So we have 54, if not 53 states, separate independent states in Africa, and it is just itself, it's unique, it has its own system, it has its own politics. The Gambians are tiny with 11,000 square kilometers, while Sudan is like 250 times larger than this. Nigeria has a population in the millions, well, Lesotho is 2 million, Nigeria like 150. So you're looking at different sizes of landmass, different climates, differences in population sizes. So how can you compare that? Botswana is largely an arid state, but Congo is a large vegetarian. Ethiopia is racially homogeneous, while South Africa has several races. So really, we can see that we can find Muslims and Christians and spiritualists, all sorts of things. So the multiple political system of Africa is on its own just really, really exciting for us to study. And we need to examine it in detail as possible, and digest in detail some of the complex body that Africa itself switches, right? So this course is just going to give you this quick analysis. And of course, we're going to look at state, civil society, and external interests. And these are the terms that I would like you to remember for today. State, right? I think there's an international relations student, you know what a state is, right? And then civil society. And then external interests. Why these two? I think this is the best way to categorize the players that you find in Africa. State, the government, right? State is the government, the power, that the authority that is there within a governing region, right? So the state, so we're going to be looking at states policies and things like that, and also case studies, we're going to be looking at states individually. Civil society, NGOs, and then as well, we need to look at also business and stuff like other partners and other players. External interests, foreign aid, migration, colonizers, all of those things are part of the external interests that we're going to be looking at and stuff like that. So given that the state, society, and external interests are going to be the recurring themes of our study, it's worth some time for you to just go and just look at the history of different states in Africa and just find out, also if you understand the concept of state, a set of political institutions are governed within a delimited sovereign territory. So this is what a state is. A set of political institutions are governed within a delimited sovereign territory. So that is a state. But just find out, what is a state? How does it function? How does Max Weber define it in his definition of a state? He points out to the fact that the deference of citizens is generated by the reality that the state claims a monopoly of legal violence within the territory. So state claims monopoly of legal violence. As I said, military intervention. What kind of states are there in Africa? There's a lot of military, legal violence within the territories, right? So, are they states? Well, if you follow Weber, they are states. So we're going to look at also political activity within the civil society, which is also diverse, because this group represents numerous different actors, and they're not even united in their demands. Each one has its own goal. Is this okay? For my master's research, I did sustainable partnership, a case of South Africa. I investigated this because I realized that partners and how they partner is largely influenced by their goals. What are their aims? Some people want to make money, some people want to help, some people want to destroy. If the aims are so different, the actions become different, the priorities become different and stuff. And so this affects state decision making, So you find that the way decisions are made are based on what is the goal, what is the interest of the state, what is the interest of the leader, what is the interest of the people. So of course, this cannot be looked at in isolation. We also have to look at external interests. So African countries, they interact. They have lateral, bilateral, multilateral, different kind of relations with the external partners for business, for all sorts of things. So we have to look at how do they interact with these people. Are they playing friendly? Are these partners good for Africa and things like that? So it's really complicated, but these are the three categories that we're going to be using, and you'll find an expansion of this in the book by Alex Thompson. So of course, civil society are the organizations that arouse from voluntary associations within society founded by extended family in the States. So civil society is very much present. As I said, I am a director of strategy and communication for African Food Revolution. So that is also something which came up, a voluntary association which was founded by different scholars to address the food issues in Africa. And the external interest, that includes foreign government, international organizations, transnational corporations, that interact with Africa, and its civic associations, not civil, but civic association. So, of course, as we say, the state itself is a set of political institutions that govern within a delimited sovereign territory. And if we add in Max Weber's definition, they have the monopoly to exercise legal violence. Exciting, isn't it? Exciting. I think this is going to be absolutely awesome. Well, for today, we have reached the 41 to 42 minutes, so which means the first part of the lecture, the whole lecture has actually been done. I try to squeeze it in as much as I can for digital media. As I said before, my name is Nolwazi. You can find me on social media, an email, and then we can exchange. I'm just going to write my email on video as well. I'm going to remove this. You know what you're studying. You signed up at VISPA. And you have me for a lecturer. So this is my email address. All these are small letters. at googlemail@gmail.com. So you can find me. I will respond to you, I promise. So thank you very much for joining this class today. And I look forward to more time with you. And we're going to be going through this step by step. I'll do my best to unpack, and I'll give you information that will help you think better. I'm an African, so I'm not a Western scholar. I'm not just talking from just reading material. I've experienced some of these things personally, and I can give you personal accounts. And also I'm doing research on the ground with my candidacy, and I'm looking at systems. So with systems, I'm interacting with all the three groups that we identify: government, civic, civil, and external interests. So we're going to go through this together. I want you to feel relaxed when you log on. I'm a cool teacher. I have rules. Of course, I have my rules. Remember, no black screen. But I really love my students, and I welcome your ideas and your knowledge. This is a discussion forum. It's not like I'm going to tell you stuff. No, I want you to bring stuff back, because you also have access to information. You are there online. You probably have international friends, some of African students, and they can be able to guide you, and we'll go through this together. So VISPA is committed to giving you an education online that you can depend on, and VISPA has lecturers such as myself who are willing to work with you through these hard times. Just hang in there. The plague that is sweeping the world is really a sad thing, but we're going to be okay. Eat healthy, follow the protocols, come for class online. I'm going to send you an email, and I think we're going to meet on the university platform. I don't know how many people can actually log on there successful. I haven't tried using it much, because
we haven't had our class. Apart from that, we're also going to use other platforms, as I said before, Facebook. I'm there, Messenger, you can write to me, Instagram and things like that. We can always meet. So I am going to be your lecturer for Contemporary African Studies, and I'm sure you're going to like this. So join me again next week for a class as we start to look at the history of Africa, colonization, Africa before the scramble for Africa, before the invasion. Who was there? What were the empires? What was the culture? How was it like? You know? And we get to tell you. Some of this information was passed through folk stories and stuff like that, but it was preserved. And we have historians and scholars who are unpacking some of these findings, and I'm getting in touch with some of them to give you first-hand information so that you learn better. 45 minutes is up. Thank you so much, and I will be seeing you soon. Do widzenia!